and roll. Here we go.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy J Dub, and welcome to Kicking It with the JW Effect. Here we talk about all things life. Welcome to another powerful show. We're gonna get straight to this. Today, our topic is top black high school student athletes attending HBCUs and PWIs. I have a powerful panel. 6 powerful individuals who are going to share their perspective. And we're going to start the show off. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Derek Sidnor. What's going on, Derek?
What's up, J-Dub? What's up, family? I'm glad that you joined us today. Again, this is going to be a very impactful show. So sit back, get your Kool-Aid, get your pencils and tablets, and get ready to get some very impactful information.
Outstanding. Okay, top black high school student athletes attend HBCUs is a hot topic. Leading up to this show, I've had many discussions, and after each one, I gained a new perspective on the topic. So I asked, do we demand our students attend HBCUs because of parents who are HBCU alumni and are pro-HBCU? Or is it about politics and just sticking it to the man? Or should it be about the student? It is a personal choice. So today, I bring to you 6 guests who will share their perspective on our subject. First, we have Mr. Eddie Gould. Eddie Gould is a graduate of Virginia State. He played football at Virginia State. His son, he attends Virginia State, but Eddie is going to share with us his journey in the recruiting process and his personal perspective on the topic. I also have my homeboy, Mr. Nate Henry. Mr. Nate Henry graduated high school. I'm going to tell him to tell his age. He graduated high school with my sister from Spingarn High School. He attended North Carolina Central, where he also participated in a football program. So he's going to share with us the deep history and culture of HBCU sports. We have my good friend, she's just a sweetheart, Miss Emily Monroe. Now, Emily and her husband, Andre, who he played football with me at Virginia State, they are graduates of HBCU, Virginia State, of course, I just said it. And their perspective is on the recruiting process, and because they had 2 sons, one went to Penn State, the other went to Maryland, the University of Maryland, and their journey to be personally involved with their recruiting process and everything. She's going to share her perspective on it because I was really moved by how she was involved in it. So today we want to leave people with an understanding and help you to give you knowledge of dealing with if you have a child that's going to school or going to school as a student athlete, that you have to be deep involved with the recruiting process. Then I have Mr. Kevin Watson. He is the devil's advocate today because Mr. Kevin was on the show last week, of course, with his platform, Focus Our Future. Now, like last week, if you was on the show, Mr. Watson attended the University of North Carolina, but he was recruited by HBCU, but I'm gonna let him tell you the story on that. So he's the devil advocate, giving us a perspective on a PWI and what it did for him. Then I have Benji Whibley. Benji, how can I say this? He shared with me that he attended a PWI first. Then he came to Virginia State. Now he's a coach and he works with other coaches, setting up to bring on more minority coaches. They take students to visit HBCUs. So he's in the process of showing student athletes which HBCU life, history, and giving them a choice to probably attend one. Then I have, of course, my good friend, Mike Wingard. Now, Mike's story is powerful. Mike came to Virginia State. He wasn't recruited, and he got there. He walked on as a walk-on for the basketball team. He earned four-year scholarship and had a great career at Virginia State. Of course, he graduated. So with that being said, we're going to get right to it, and let's kick it off. D, what you got for me on the first topic? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me finish. Let me do this. Now, this is a two-part series. When we met, we had so much information. It was so powerful. We're going to split this up into two shows. Today, we're going to focus on recruiting, and we're going to focus on the parent aspect of understanding the process of preparing your kid to choose your HBCU or a PWI. Because I get it when we talk about we need to get funding. We need to get more 5-star, 4-star recruits to go to these PWIs. But after talking with so many people, there's a lot of factors to this. There's a lot of things in play. It's just not as simple as, going that we got to do this and we got to do that. So we're going to get at it and let's get it going. D, what you got for me?
Well, JW, you know that HBCUs at one time were the only place that a lot of our top Black athletes could go. You look at your Jerry Rices and your Michael Strahams and Walter Payton even, they all went to HBCUs, but somehow, somewhere, things changed. And we had less star athletes going to HBCUs and going more to the PWIs. So I guess the first question for the panel is that why do you think that change happened? Like, why do you think that we had more star African-American athletes started going to the PWIs instead of the HBCUs?
Well, if I may, hello, everybody. Nate Henry, if I may, I believe the first factor in there is money. Money and exposure. The paradigm shifted where the focus has been on the grass is greener on the other side, and no disrespect to the PWIs, because we all need to coexist. But historically speaking, the HBCs, again, wasn't allowed to compete with the PWIs. I mean, it was Woody Strode and Jackie Robinson. Most folks don't realize Jackie Robinson played football also. He played at UCLA, but it wasn't until Buck Buchanan in 1963 was able to get drafted by the AFL because of the lack of, should I say, opportunities in the NFL. It wasn't until he opened that door in 1963. So I think leading up to your question, or to answer your question, as time shifted with the TV rights and the money resources, I think that played a major part in why the paradigm has shifted.
Yeah, I got a quick response. Yeah, I chose the PWI, and I'll get into why I chose it. But around the time when I had a chance to choose what school I wanted to go to, I was one of the top athletes, football and track. And it wasn't just football that I was interested in. I love track. And honestly, people around me, the people who influenced my decision, they weren't encouraging me to go to HBCUs. They were telling me go to the best schools. So I had to make a decision on what's the best school. So I had to decide what's the best school for me. So a lot of factors went into that. So that's pretty much why, and I went to school around the early 2000s to give you an idea as to the time frame when I made my decision.
And then to add on to what the two gentlemen just spoke of, it was pretty much a comparison. We were under that construction that, that PWI school was better, had better facilities, the networking was better, the after college networking, getting a job, and then having the best teacher professors, the location. And then you look at a HBCU, it's like, okay, you're not going to get all that there. Although you were getting a scholarship, but it may not be on the same level in terms of when you submit your resume to a government agency or 500 company, they're going to look at Virginia State say, compared to a North Carolina. You know, they were saying, well, man, if you go to a, you know, smaller school, a bigger school, you're going to get looked at more. And that was the misconception that we had.
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that, adding on to what Mike said, is that very early on, the PWIs had an advantage because they realized that your football program is a serious business for the institution, and they were able to develop marketing strategies to bring the best athletes to their university because they understood the business side of that. HBCUs, unfortunately, didn't have the budgets to be able to compete with that, and it had serious implications on where a African American athlete wanted to attend a university. We can never get it twisted that the PWIs really understand the marketing aspects of college football. I was doing some research and some information on why it is so important for PWIs to do that. And what most people don't understand is that not only is the football program a major moneymaker, but it's also the front porch to a major institution like an Alabama per se. Yeah. In those times where Alabama, like they are now, when they're playing as well as they are as a football program, the other side of that is their applications go up 10-fold, 15-fold, 20-fold. So now not only you got a good football program that's bringing in tremendous monetary gains, but you also have a football program that's bringing in or introducing some of the best students to your university. And it's just a complex thing, but it's very intriguing and it's real. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So with that, we see that schools like Hampton and A&T are now moving to the Big South. And then Hampton and Norfolk and some other schools left the CIAA years ago because I guess they figured that if they get into the D1 pot, that it gets more money for the school and gets more publicity for that. But with that, is that taken away from the cultural aspect of being an HBCU?
If I may, I just did some research on the studies in regards to what the brother just spoke of previously, in regards to the marketing piece. But the flip side of that, when we approach these young student athletes about attending the HBC, the first selling point should really be about education and what they can get out of that, because you also have a network in HBCs as well with getting jobs and things of that nature. In fact, the study indicated that the hiring rate for HBCs climbed an average of 5.9% a year from 2016 through 2019, and that's a 1.3% average growth rate for bachelor degree holders from non-HBC schools compared to other schools. So to end that, basically, HBCs has consistently produced a lot of professionals, engineers, doctors, lawyers, folks of that nature. So really, when we approach these student athletes, when they talk about attending a school, there's nothing wrong with a PWI. Both of my daughters graduated from PWIs, and they were athletes. However, when you look at the percentages, and I think North Carolina Central's coach, Lavelle Moulton, just illustrated that he had his players, he had 35 chairs, or however many chairs it is for the team. And what they did, it was like they walked around the chair until he said what he needed to say. And then if you were the person that didn't get a chair to sit in, you got weeded out up until that last person. So his point was, when it's over with, what do you have? So the selling point is basically getting our athletes, student athletes to understand it's about the education portion of it.
Derek, I could give a perspective. My son, who is a freshman at Hampton, it came down between Hampton and the Naval Academy. And the wave was the sell of him wanting to be part of, his mother, father, 2 older brothers went to HBCUs, was the experience. I mean, Hampton offered, the coach basically gave a lot that Nate's talking about. The highest percentage of judges, lawyers, engineers, teachers are all HBCU graduates. That's something that's not out there enough. If you look at the statistics, HBCU graduates in the professional fields are the highest percentages. If you look at the graduation rates, the higher graduation rate from HBCUs, and particularly for athletes. So that was one of the sells for him to choose Hampton. And it was a sell for me that, this many years later, that I learned from his recruiting process that was a big thing. As far as them going to the Big South, that was a question. It's about revenue. It's about money. And everybody talked about it earlier, facilities, gear. You go to I went to a PWI first, and it's different when it came to facilities, when it came to gear, stuff like that kids buy on, the food courts and different things like that. It's just a whole different world for these kids when they go on these visits and stuff like that. You go on a visit and you're brought to New York City and different places like that. It's a hard sell. But like you say, HBCUs do not have the budgets to have these type of visits and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm gonna shift real quick because I have a gentleman on here that I've reached out to. We grew up in the same neighborhood, and I asked him to give us his perspective, and I think this is gonna be a powerful one. So I'm respectful of his time, but I need to introduce y'all to Coach Jay Butler. Coach Jay Butler, he's from Washington D.C., but Coach Jay Butler is the head coach at Virginia Union. He's the head basketball coach. When I spoke with Coach Butler, I asked him to give me if he could come on and give us a perspective from the coach's standpoint, where it doesn't come in conflict with his university policies, anything. So he said he would come on and share some things. So one of the questions I asked Coach Butler was if he had a list of the top what you call them, 5 stars and 4 stars in his region, how did he go about trying to recruit me? He had a very interesting aspect saying that with me. So let's welcome Coach Jay Butler. What's up, homie? How you doing? Looking good.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you been doing?
I'm all right, homie.
All right. I want to thank everyone for having me on the show. Don't have a lot of time. We do Sunday Zoom calls with the guys just to kind of keep them engaged with everything that's going on. So we do Sunday calls just to, it's tough for kids to go, take classes virtual. So that's been a task for us. So it's a little bit like babysitting and a little bit of everything, trying to keep them kids engaged with their academics. Because, and like you said, the ultimate goal is for them to get their degree so they can move on. But a little bit about recruiting top athletes. Growing up in DC, the DMV area is one of the best, talent pools in the country. So, we try to go out as a Division II school to identify those kids. And we create a database and kind of keep track of those kids, because we all know, if you haven't heard of verbal commits and the transfer portal, you're talking about 800-900 kids end up in the transfer portal a year. So, we try to identify those kids, and then, we go out and recruit them when they pop up on the transfer list. And a lot of kids want to get closer to home. A lot of kids expected that big Division I school to, treat them like they were playing AAU and high school basketball, which, you got 15 guys that's on that level that's all pretty much been 4- or 5-star athlete. So at that point, you're going to have to get in where you fit in, and you're going to have to, produce. If you're not producing, in this day and time, they're going to move on and going to recruit over top of you.
Real quick, Coach Butler, when you won your first CIAA title, you was telling me you had 3 top recruits that transferred to Union. Share with us how you were able to, I'm just going to say, hook them, and what did you share with them to show them the HBCU love?
It was just all about relationship. There was a lot of guys out of the DC area that I had a relationship with, And, when those kids popped up on the transfer list, they gave me a call. I got on the phone with the kids and I told them, you got 1-2 years, you want to make that last year or two your best years. And I told them, I said, you come in, I'm gonna help you get your degree. And I said, we're gonna try to win a championship and ultimately try to win a national championship. And it seemed like every year that we have success, we'll get 3 or 4 Division I transfers that will come in. And I can give you all their numbers right now. And they tell you, whether it was a year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, they say that was the best time of their life going to a HBCU. And I mean, it was some kids that had opportunities to maybe go back and finish up. They said, no, I'm finishing up at Union. Union gave me the opportunity. Some of the kids came in and they end up, joining the fraternity, just the networking, the family. And I told them, I said, you're gonna have access to me 24 hours a day. And those Division I coaches, they not gonna say that. 24 hours, my wife get on me all the time. I might get a call 3-4 o'clock in the morning, but those kids know I got their back, and they're gonna go out there and play their hearts out for me. But just the opportunity to come in and play at a HBCU, get a degree from there. I played at Union. I played at Union. I had the opportunity to play with Ben Wallace. So, when those Division I say we're producing pros, Virginia Union produced pros too. So you got Charles Oakley, you got AJ English, Ben Wallace. So, and then we struggle because the facilities that we got right now is no secret. I played in 92 to 96. It's the same.
Yeah.
So the challenge is always going to be money and facilities. But, I tell the kids all the time, you come in our gym, we might only seat 2,500, but we got up in the banners, we got plenty of CIAA championships, and there's only a few HBCUs that got national championships, and we got them.
Yeah.
Right. I want to say, man, I know your time is tight. I really appreciate it, Jay, because that's a deep perspective, coming from a coach who runs a prominent program, who produce graduates. You know what I'm saying? I like what you were saying about, you talk to them and they decide they're gonna go to these PWIs, but you got the database and you stay in contact, so they remember, man, that coach from Union. I like what he was talking about. Let me call him up. It's not too late. And they come back, and just like you told them in the beginning, it's still waiting on them. Because, it's that family orientation and everything. And I remember you told me the schedules are so well put together that they will have time enough to pledge or do any other personal activity and everything. So I guess we could probably say that for some of our top Black high school athletes, it may be okay for them to attend a PWI to get the tough experience for the first time. Because if they still have coaches like you and people in their corner, we can get them where we want them. But they have to experience it, and that gives them a little maturity. So when they come in, they see, they already got a level of preparing that they show them, and then they probably can come and share some things with the teammates on the HBCU level. So yeah, I just want to. You will have any last things you want to share with us?
Nah, I just like I said, this right here, this panel, this is great because the top D1 schools, it's like the kids are coming out of DeMatha and Paul VI. Yeah, those kids, they earn the right to get that scholarship and to eventually, play on TV. But it's so many kids out here that don't understand the mid-major, the low Division I. It's quality Division II schools out there, and even if it's a Division III route, right. It's scholarship money out there, for the taking. And it don't matter what level you go to. And I always tell kids, if you can play, they're gonna find you. If you can play, they're gonna find you. So just go where, not where you want it, just go where you need it. When a coach comes into your house and say, I need you at my university, that's huge. Because they're gonna say, yeah, I want you. But at the end of the day, They want 15 other guys. So you got to go somewhere where you need it. And I think, a lot of kids just don't understand that, the Division III, there's opportunities out there at Division III. Even NAIA. The object is to get out of your situation and move on and get your education and get a degree without taking out a bunch of loans and the different things like that. So if you can get some free scholarship money, just about take it. Yeah. So if it's in Wisconsin, go to Wisconsin and experience Wisconsin. And, come back to DC and say, hey, I had the opportunity to go to school in Wisconsin for 4 years. That's kids just need to get, coming out of DC, you got to get away sometimes just to experience. Gotcha. But your HBCUs, we tend to, we take a kid with a second chance, third chance, to get those kids opportunity, because you can't just turn your back on them because their first year they didn't get the grades, or like we all at college, we went to a party and made a mistake. Right. And then you got to move on. So we tend to open our doors up for those type of kids. And then at the end of the day, they had that much respect for you because you gave them an opportunity to further, their careers, and able to get their degrees. But I just want to thank you all for having me. I got to get prepared for my Zoom call because I got 25 guys that I got to get down to 15. And
hey, Coach, I really appreciate it, man. And your perspective was strong. I want to wish you everything, all the wellness, and and all your seasons upcoming and everything you're doing at Virginia Union. And when you talk to your family, tell them Jim Boy said was
I definitely will. But thank you all for having me. And if you want to look me up, you got any questions or just anything, you can just reach out to me. Jimbo, he can give you my number. And I don't have no problem to call me anytime. Any kind of questions. I tend to stay off the Zoom because it get into a lot of politics and stuff. But we just get on, we just talking. I can fill you with a bunch of information.
My man. All right, buddy. You take care. Be safe out there.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Okay. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled channel. Now we're gonna go into the PWI experience. We're gonna bring on Kevin Watson so he can share with us his journey doing his recruiting, coming out of the Henrico High School public school system. Are you with us, Kev?
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, go ahead and share with us this journey you had, because I know you was telling me in the beginning how you did have one offer from an HBCU. Tell us about how that experience was and what led you to go to the University of North Carolina on your football/track scholarship, and how was that experience from your experience while you was at North Carolina?
Sure, yeah, so before I get into that, I'm gonna give you a quick background. I grew up single parent home, predominantly Black area, in like Henrico County area, went to Henrico High School. And I had a lot of choices to make, I had a lot of options because I was a scholar athlete. So I didn't get much support from my family because they didn't really know much about the recruiting process. And I was kind of making the decision on my own based upon my own personal experiences. And my own desires, my own wishes, my own thoughts, and a little bit of influence from like coaches or friends and family and stuff like that. So when it came to actually deciding the school, I had like maybe 5 major things I had to try to make a decision. One, I wanted to be able to play 2 sports. So I wanted to be able to do football and track. I wanted to go to a school that had prestige, like track prestige, because I have a passion for track. So I want to be able to possibly go pro as a track athlete. Next, I was looking at a major. I was interested in psychology, still am interested in psychology. I still use it today. I was interested specifically in industrial psychology. So it kind of broke it down to a lot of other schools. And then I wanted a full scholarship, and then I wanted competition. I wanted the best. I wanted to be the best, so I had to run against the best or play against the best. So I was recruited by one school in particular, was Virginia State. I still know the coach to this day. We still talk, and we still talk about that experience. It was a fighting battle, man. He couldn't really influence me to go to the school because, one, for me personally, I decided early on in my high school career that I didn't want to go to any schools in Virginia. So he had to really be like, hey, look, like he had to really influence me not to go. And I went to different schools. Like I went to basketball camps at Georgetown. I went to camps at UVA. So I went to the campuses. I've seen them, you know, and I was like, I didn't want to go to VCU. So I didn't want to go to any schools in Virginia. So when he was recruiting me, he was like, look, I got a scholarship for you. I got this for you. We really want you. We really need you, stuff like that. And no one was encouraging me around my, my friends, family, stuff like that was saying, no one was encouraging me to go to HBCU. So I didn't really consider like, hey, go to an HBCU. I was like, go to the best school. So at that time, I had two options, or I had a few options. I went to, as a scholar, when you have options, you can go take visits, like official visits. I won't talk about all of them. I took maybe 4. So I'll basically talk about 2. I went to the University of Indiana University. And I met great football players like Antoine Randall and some other people, and they showed me around the facility, and I would hang out with the team, both football and track teams, and we partied. And there was a bad experience. Just to lighten what happened, I was in one of the rooms, and people had some stuff, and somebody like threw up on me. So I was like, oh, like this is not something that I want to be a part of. So I went to another university. I went to Elon. I didn't want to go there because I wanted to kind of see what a lower level kind of university was. Then I went to UNC. And when I went to UNC, I kind of enjoyed the atmosphere. And when I went to see this football team, what really made me decide the school was because they noticed that I wasn't the type to really like. They wanted to impress me by doing things that I enjoy. I like to do research and study, so they took me to a film room, and I met a potential NFL player, and we watched film for like the whole night. We didn't go out or anything like that. And then they took me into the track program, and he offered me a full scholarship. And I went back to the football team, and then they offered me a scholarship, and then I was like, wow, like this is where I wanted to go. So those are some of the things that kind of helped me make my decision, and why I chose the ultimately UNC, because they had a lot, and plus they had industrial psychology as a program, and the competition was definitely there at ACC schools. So those are some of the reasons why I chose UNC.
So let's say this: hindsight is 2020. We're going to take it back, and if there was a HBCU that could have covered the educational aspect of what you was looking for, and they had a competitive team, you think looking back, you might would have considered or maybe chose a school like at that time, maybe Hampton, or some SWAC school or something like that?
Yeah. I think if I was like, if people around me were more like, because I didn't get as much education about HBCUs. Honestly, a lot of my peers who were top athletes, I mean, not just, I mean, really top, like, I mean, athletes of the year, stuff like that around me, they were going to Division I, Big Ten, they were going to big, predominantly white schools. So I saw that and was like, well, hey, why do I want to go HBCU? Like, I didn't see the value in it until later when I got older, and I was like, wow, like, there's really value here. And I started, like, when Nate was talking about the stats, I started researching the stats, and I was like, we're like, so that's what made me really go back and kind of reevaluate things. So when I chose, because I was going to go to graduate school at VCU, but I chose not to. I chose Virginia State. So that's why I was like, let me go to Virginia State, get my graduate degree from there. So so I would have definitely chose HBCU. And with track and field, you don't have to go to SEC or an ACC school to compete. even though typically most athletes at that level are in the top tier, meaning the top 2-3% at the national level, most of the athletes are, you can still go to a HBCU and still be competitive. I remember a guy in particular named Jerome Baptist. He ended up being a phenomenal athlete at Hampton, doing great things at that school.
Petersburg.
Yeah, exactly, Petersburg. And and he ended up going to play for the Texans, and he came an All-Pro. So, and then there's Kelly Wells. She was an Olympian. She's a bronze medalist. She went to Hampton. So yeah, definitely looking back, I would have been like, go to HBCU.
Definitely good stuff, Kevin. So you had a lot of options as far as going to schools and things like that. But there are players that do not have those options. That coaches are not coming and knocking at the door. They're not getting recruitment letters. They're not all those type of things like that and whatnot. And that had to be a person we had today on the panel, Mike Wingard, who was a walk-on at Virginia State University. And again, he was before my time, so I can't say he was a beast or nothing like that. But what I heard, the man can hoop, the man can ball, and things like that. So, Mike, we heard about Kevin, and he had all these options and things about going to school and stuff like that. Right. How did you become a walk-on at Virginia State? Like, were you getting recruited? Were the people like knocking at your door? Or like, tell us that story.
No, sir. Real quick, unlike Kevin, I didn't have any type of recruiting. I came out of McKinley Tech, and I'm a product of Washington, D.C. in the hood, Southwest D.C. Kind of grew up with the likes of people like Wayne Perry and a whole lot of hustlers. They was like, Mike, man, you need to go to school. You don't need this life. And so what I did, not getting any, and we had an awesome team at McKinley. And we were balling, but I didn't get any recruitments, any coaches that called me. And I was introduced to Virginia State by alumni that knew my mother. And she gave me a $2,000 scholarship to go towards my tuition. So I went on down there and I said, man, I'm a try out for the team. So come October, there's about 100 guys in there, and only 2 of us made the team. And from then on, I just, took it and used it as I always heard my coach say, use basketball as a vehicle, to get you in school, to get your scholarship. And once I got that scholarship, I was like, head on, I was real focused on being able to get that degree. And it was all about, business administration and graduating in 4 years. So I would encourage any male, young man, young woman, that if you're not getting those kind of recruitment calls and getting any scholarships, kind of, narrow down some schools. And if you feel like, you have those skills, go on and try to walk on and make it. So I thank God that he allowed me to, get that scholarship and do that. And what Virginia State did was propel me to go on and finish and get my degree, graduate degree at Averett, as well as associates at Syracuse. And as I look back on it, I'm like, wow, if God can use me, somebody coming from the hood, single parent home, didn't have anybody in the family to graduate. I didn't know nothing about no NCAA, core classes, none of that stuff. My SAT scores were low. I was like a 3.5 student in class, but I wasn't good with test scores. And even now looking at it, I have 3 sons, and 2 of them went to college and dealing with all that core stuff. And it was like some schools took certain GPAs and some took certain SATs or ACTs, and they balanced it. It's like if you have a high GPA, you can get a lower SAT score, or vice versa. So I had to learn all that through them, but thank God I didn't have to go through it.
So that's a good thing, Mike. You bring up a great point, because even though Kevin had all these offers, he still had to have some grades somewhere in there to get those offers. And we have Mr. Benji here, and he kind of knows about all the backstories of what do you need to do in order to get yourself prepared to be a walk-on or to even get those scholarship offers. So those requirements. Mr. Benji, can you tell us about those requirements that Mike and Kevin needed, even though they've changed, it's been some time, they've changed, but they still need a requirement. So you can tell us a little bit more about those requirements.
The key is that, a lot of kids, and particularly kids in urban areas, are behind the 8 ball because they don't come in their freshman year understanding what are the requirements for the NCAA. So first you have to have the core courses. So I work with kids, I haven't coached with their parents that they did not take the correct core courses. So they're in their junior year trying to hustle to get the right core courses, or they got D's. Once you get a D, you are fighting, you're behind the 8 ball. So you really have to, work on top of the ball. That freshman year of high school, athletics and school is so important. It's just like college. If you start off, knocking out those A's and B's in your core courses in English, math, history and stuff like that, you're going to be way ahead of the ball. And SAT prep, a lot of the kids do not have the opportunity or can't afford to be in SAT prep classes, or maybe if they're in a district that doesn't afford to give free classes. It's important. Many of the white kids, they'll start taking SATs and SAT preps in the 9th grade. So they're preparing to work ahead of the ball. They'll get the, the guidance counselor to put them in certain untimed tests, saying that that they have concentration issues, so they can have a prolonged test time. There's a lot of loopholes that you could do to work around it. But the key is that the parents have to be involved from day one. You can't come in here screaming and hollering at coaches the senior year when your kid decides to have a great season, saying that, oh, you didn't do anything for me. I tell every parent, the ball is in your court. You control your own destiny. Don't blame anybody but yourself when it comes to it. So as people in the community, people at church, like Mike said, you need those folks to mentor and tell people to get ready sooner than later. So the NCAA is constantly changing. For the last 2 classes, they waived the SATs, so the kids have a great advantage. But as Coach Jay said, the transfer portal and all this stuff is so backed up. There are limited scholarship opportunities. So you have these 23-year-old men who are transferring. They're taking scholarships away from the younger guys. So going to a D3 school with a scholarship package and not having any debt, that's a win. There's no embarrassment in going to a D3 school to play any sport and graduate with no debt. That's the bottom line. So you could be cute and walk on to Syracuse or UMass and graduate with $100,000 of debt. What was it worth? So be smart in your choices when you prepare for these things. But parents, you have to stay on top of it from day one. Not the coach's fault. It's not the guidance counselor's fault. I'm a father of 4. We took control of that from day one. We were the persons who were going to control our kids' destiny. Not an administrator, but you.
Thanks, Benji. J-Dub, so you heard our last 3 people said that there wasn't any parental involvement in their whole recruitment process and trying to get to school. What do you think about that, J-Dub?
I think they have to really be involved. That's why, as we transition to this next area of the show, we're gonna get involved with the parents' knowledge. And I have 2 good friends on here who was deeply involved with their child's recruitment process. First, let's bring Eddie Gould to the table. Eddie, like I told you earlier, he graduated from Virginia State. He played football. He was involved highly in his son's, I call him D, Little D, in his recruitment process. D ended up going. First, he started off at Coastal Carolina on the track scholarship, and now he's a Trojan, of course, keeping the legacy alive. So, Eddie, talk to us about this process you went through with your son.
Well, I think, coming from a parent's perspective, it's important to educate yourself as a parent. When I came out of high school in '86, that's like a dinosaur in regards to recruitment and sports and being a student athlete. So I was blessed enough to be in coaching football and track youth and in high school, and so I had some experiences with dealing with the recruitment process and understanding grades that need to happen. So I started Donovan off early. Like Benji talked about SAT. We took SAT prep courses in 9th grade and 10th grade. And so I encourage all parents to educate yourselves. It's good to have people to give you influence and information, but it's best to know. And that will be helpful. So in reference, my son, that process we went through, Donovan just knew he was a Division I football player. And, I'm one of those parents that I'm honest. And that's one thing I think that parents need to do is be honest with your child, and understand your child's capabilities and his limitations. My son was a great running back coming out of high school, but he was 155 pounds. Like you're not going to play D1 running back at 155 pounds, man, just because you have blatant speed. But he was a nationally ranked track sprinter, but he loved football. He didn't love track. And so the college, he was recruited by 2 schools really aggressively for football, and that was Morgan State and Howard. And I wasn't taking my baby to Morgan State. We went up there on a weekend, and I said, "My God, you can't. No, that's not going to happen. You can't do that. You're not ready for this. You're a cul-de-sac kid. He didn't come up like we came up. So that wasn't going to work for him. I know he think he's tough, but no, you're not. And so you're a cul-de-sac kid, man. And but Morgan was a sweet deal because he would want to be on full scholarship between track and football. But that just wasn't an opportunity. Howard gave him a preferred walk-on. Why? And here again, we're talking about education. He qualified late academically with the SAT scores. Most of your, again, I'm leaning on education for the parents. Most of the college recruiters nowadays, they want to sign you early. The early signing period is in December. And they snatch a lot of the kids then, but Donovan hadn't qualified. So the coach at the time, who's now with Women Married, came up to the school and everything. And so he had to move on. And so, what parents have to understand is like, it's a business, it's a business. And, he didn't meet the standards at that time. And he was offering money at that time, and December wasn't there. So here we come February, and he offered a preferred walk-on. Well, weeks later, Donovan had won a state championship in indoor, right? So some calls started to come in. Like he was ranked 11th in the nation in the 55-meter high school, which was amazing. Again, he still thinks that he's a Division I football player. And so education again with the parents, kids now, media is an amazing thing, but it is a gift and a curse. Because everybody looks at media, they look at these signing periods, they look at these I'm signing and all these announcements. And if you're not the top 100 in the country, most of those guys are preferred walk-ons. Most of those guys are not going to college on a full scholarship. It's just not happening. And so Coastal Carolina came around. They called, actually the track coach was at the state championship meet recruiting another female from St. Chris, and saw Donovan. So me being a HBCU alum and a diehard HBCU student athlete, I'm a proponent of it. When we went down to Coastal and toured the campus and the facilities and the opportunities, it was a done deal for me. And so as a parent, it is important that we put our children in the best position where they can be successful. I don't care where it is. It could be Division III, whatever it is. But for me, I wanted better for my son, right? And so coming from Virginia State, which I love, man, we had it rough, man. Langston, it was rough. And the opportunities there was rough. Like you really had to be mentally tough, as everybody on this panel was or is at the time and is now. But we've raised our kids differently. We've given them a lot. And so we went down there to Coastal, man, and HBCU went out the window for me. I'm like, listen, dude, I don't want you to live like I live. I don't want you to go to, and even though things have changed, a lot of it is still the same. And so you're talking about the eating, the cafeterias open for athletes till 2 a.m. They flew to Florida, they flew to Oregon for track meet. He's sending me pictures with Tyson Gay, and they warming up together. So I'm like, man, I'm winning. I'm winning. My son is getting his experiences. And then you talk about professionally and academically, you have companies that directly recruit from Coastal Carolina, big time companies, Fortune 500 companies. That's not happening at HBCUs, well, some of them, or what didn't happen at Virginia State. So I kind of got locked in with that, and the opportunity there. But here we go again. My son wanted to play football. Well, Coastal Carolina is Division I. And he had an opportunity to play football, but a track coach who was paying him wasn't full scholarship, but it was about half and some change. He had to run track full time. And so that wasn't an option for him. And, you know, he wasn't happy. So long story short, he comes home. I mean, he's miserable. I say he's depressed. He wants to play football. Now he's listening to what I'm saying. Like, Dad, I want to transfer. I want to go somewhere else and play football. Well, I had some inside talks with Virginia State. And so I was able to go to the door and get him an opportunity there. And it worked out for him. So when you talk about from a parent's perspective, the keys are, you know, 8th grade, 9th grade, you need to start educating yourself and your child on what needs to be done academically, and understand what type of schools that you need that's going to fit you. All right. As far as athletics is concerned, you got to be honest with your child. I coach little league football and high school football. These parents are ranking their children nationally on computers, and you're the best DB in the nation. Like, how? Who you done tackled to get that? You're 13 years old. How you rank nationally? So this, and I educate the parents as I coach all the time. And coach, when I ask me why your son not playing, I said, come to practice. I'm gonna let you know why your son not playing. And so as a parent, you have to be honest with your child. I was honest with Dom. Dom, you're 155 pounds, bro. They're gonna kill you. Oh, Coastal opened up against South Carolina. They're going to murder you. That's what's gonna happen. And so, so do you want to be on the team, or you want to be a part of the team? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to have that experience? And I said, Dom, I know you don't want to just to say I play football with Coastal, and you're on the sideline holding the chain every Saturday. And then you might have a chance to play on Saturdays by your senior year. That's a waste. That's a waste. And so education, academics, understand, like Benji mentioned about your core courses, making sure your GPAs are done there. Get in front of your ACT and SATs. For Black and brown kids, ACTs are more conducive to get qualified. All this old stuff about pro-Black and pro-HBCU, I get it, I love it, but it's about your child. It's about your child and the opportunities there, and him being successful in the area where he can win, and being honest. Man, he got parents that got these kids going to the Hall of Fame and counting stats, and he in the 8th grade. Are you kidding me? Like, no, learn how to play the game. Learn how to be a subordinate, those type of things. So that's what I would encourage parents to do in reference to getting the kid prepared for college.
I agree. So hold on, D. I want to so thanks, Eddie, for sharing your perspective. Because when we talk, I told you when you share,
right?
When you share your journey and tell me the story, how it blew your mind when you got down there for registration and all they had was the envelope and just moved to the next line. It was powerful. So
oh now, man, amazing.
So now I got the Monroes. When I reached out to Emily, of course, Dre was ducking me because he's still mad at me because when I tackled him in his freshman year in practice, he's still mad at me anyway. But I reached out to Emily, and the story of the journey they took with their sons is powerful. So Emily, Andre, give it to us about two sons, Penn State, Maryland. Tell us about this journey and everything y'all learned being hands-on with their recruitment process.
I think they frozen. Emily, Dre, y'all frozen, man. Your screen's frozen.
Yeah, our journey started early. It actually started Are we?
Oh,
can you see me? That? We don't look frozen. Can you see?
Are we still frozen?
We hear you.
You're frozen, but we can hear you.
Are we good?
Yeah, just talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, man. You good? Oh, I don't know why it's frozen. Okay, so our journey actually started a little early. We started prior to high school. We started prior to high school. And I know that it was, for us, it was about strategically placing our boys in schools or to get, so that they can get opportunity. So our boys, we have 3 sons, 2 of them are collegiate, or were collegiate athletes. And all 3 of my sons, they went to St. John's College High School, which is in Catholic school in DC, one of the prominent Catholics in the WCAC conference here in the DC metropolitan area. It's up there with DeMatha and Paul VI and the Good Counsel and all of that. So our oldest son, he graduated from St. John's in 2010. So for us, it's and as we are speaking here today, the overarching point that I hear is academics, academics, academics. Well, this is what we drilled into our boys in middle, it's always been drilled into them. But then when we realized that we wanted to pursue the athletic scholarship route, we had to enforce and instill those habits into them starting, in middle school, like, this is what the readiness, this is what we're going to have to do, because once we get to high school, it's game on. Everything counts once you get to high school. So let's prepare now for the work that we're going to have to do and maintain once we get to high school. So I don't know, do you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay. So our oldest son, Andre Jr., he's always been a big guy. He actually his first sport was actually track, because he was too big to play football. He couldn't play football because he was too heavy. And for him, it was the struggle, because he always had to, play up a weight class with the older boys and then try to sweat down so he can make the weight and so on and so forth. But anyway, fast forward, we're applying to high schools. He applied to DeMatha. He's like, oh, I want to go to DeMatha. I want to go to DeMatha. So he, the coaches, latch on to him. They're trying to get us to DeMatha and everything. And of course, because DeMatha was one of the top football programs in the area, right? So this is the bell, the big thing then. So, and then at the last minute, we had them all ready to go to DeMatha, and St. John's was kind of lingering in the background. And they came to me and they spoke to us, and well, not just, it was both of us, but and I talked to the coach, and he was like, Miss Monroe, I really think that your son will be, St. John's will be a better fit for your son. And he laid it out and he explained, and that was a game changer to me, because then it was like, okay, he really cares about my son. He's just not, he cares about his overall development and not just what he can do on the football field.
And we knew it was a better academic environment.
And it was a better, the academic environment was conducive to him. He was going to get what he needed in the football program. He was just going to get everything he needed. So it was a well-balanced wheel. So his recruitment was he was an all-Met player. He had a lot of accolades. He was a top player on the team. He got there, the MVP player. He got all of these accolades. He didn't have a mound of schools coming after him.
Height.
Because of his height.
Yeah. However, as a defensive lineman at 5'10", that is not what is considered Division I measurables. But fortunately for him, he showed some other attributes in terms of the football world that made at least a couple of Division I schools interested in him. University of Maryland was one of them. At the time, the offensive coordinator was James Franklin, who's now coaching at Penn State. He came to recruit another player at St. John's, and he had an opportunity to see Andre, and just could not believe, the things that he was doing at that height and was willing to give him a chance. So
yeah. So for Andre, Andre and I tag teamed the whole thing. We, Andre was the football guru. I understand a little bit about football. I know when to cheer, for my team, when we made a touchdown and when we moved the chains and, that kind of thing. And I was the academic guru. So I crunched numbers. I crunched those GPAs. I knew, what I was very well endowed, and I understood what those eligibility requirements were. So also we have our second son, who also St. John's played football. He also ran track, but like Eddie's son, football was his first. He wanted to play football, so we pursued, the football route with him. Again, the same thing. We tag teamed it. It was all about, if you don't get these grades are everything, because the first thing the coaches are asking when they come see you, what your grades look like, and you don't want to be behind the ball. So again, you get it. The eligibility piece it really starts before high school, because you got to instill it in them, and then when you get it counts when you get to the 9th grade. So the one thing that we had at St. John's was St. John's had a staff person, or a person on staff that was dedicated to those eligibility requirements, making sure the boys, she worked with the entire team, making sure that every year when they register for courses, they were matching up and checking off what those requirements were to make sure that so by the time they got to, when they went into the portal for the clearinghouse, they had what they needed. They had their core courses. They already had that information. She even would she helped us identify some free SAT prep classes, because, for our kids. So that was one of the benefits and the blessings that we had in our program. And I also want to go back and give credit to the coach, because the coach was, he also came, he was an athletic, a scholar athlete. Mm-hmm. So he understood and he knew what it took. So he built his program to have those benefits and those things that were needed for the students. So we go on and, Andre gets to, Maryland. Like I said, he had to, they offered these, we saw the story to tell you about
The Blind Side.
Yeah, The Blind Side. And that's how we learned about these courses that kids could take to help supplement their supplement courses that they can take and submit to the clearinghouse, and they can actually be used as core requirements. So with the core requirements. So say, if you're in your math courses, say your math GPA, your grades in your math courses may be a little lower. So you could take a math class with them, one of the qualifying math classes, and that could replace the one that you had on your transcript at your high school. Because the NCAA clearinghouse, they're going to take the highest of your math courses. If you needed 3 math courses and say you took 4, they're going to take your 3 highest to calculate your core GPA. And that's what they do in all the other subjects as well. So, we did that. And a lot of parents didn't know about stuff like that, but that was something that we had to do with our oldest son. Our middle son, he tests very well. And he actually told me after he took, his GPA was a little better. So he was like, Mom, look, I done already figured the math out. If my GPA is this, I need this on the SAT. He said, even if I took the SAT again, he said, don't waste your money. He said, my score is good. because the score that I got on the SAT exceeds what I need according to my GPA. So I'm good. So he's like, don't waste your money. Don't waste your money. So of course I wanted him to take it again because I wanted to see if he could get higher, but he was like, don't waste your money. Our whole process was we started early. And a lot of parents, you have to be involved. And I heard some of your other guys like Kevin said, well, he didn't have, and Mike, they didn't have parental involvement, or they didn't have anybody to tell them about what a clearinghouse was and what all of this was, and how Benji talked about you have kids that now they come, you don't want a championship, and now you got schools looking at you, but you are in the 11th grade and you're behind the curve on meeting your clearinghouse requirements. So it starts early, and the parents, and if not the kids people need to know. People need to know. So it's all about those academics. It's all about those academics.
And before we go into our Q&A, I want you to share, because I think this is big. This is something that happens. This has been taking place for a long time. Why the PWIs get our top. I think back when
you covered it pretty well.
Okay.
When they wasn't treating us fair. So when share with us how they pulled out the red carpet and what was in place for the kids when they were ready to come to school. And because I want to use that as an example for how they pulled our kids in and what the HBCUs are up against.
Yeah, I can tell you my experience.
Hold on for me, Cap.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I still want Emily to share, because what she shared with me, how Penn State just put it out there, it just blew me away.
Oh yeah. But now see that, this is where Coach Franklin is, excellent at recruiting. He built upon the relationship that we already had with him, with the older son. And I remember when we were going through Andre's recruitment at Maryland, and he told our middle son, Aaron, he told him, because he was like, I'm watching you. He said, and I'm gonna come back for you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think Aaron was like in the 7th grade.
Like 7th or 8th grade.
And he had some trophies displaying. And Coach Franklin asked, well, who's those trophies belong to? And of course, Aaron stepped up and says, those are my trophies. He says, oh, so I assume that you're a pretty good athlete as well. And Aaron says, yeah, I kind of think I am. He says, well, I'll tell you what, in about 5 more years, I'm going to be coming back to recruit you next.
Sure did. He came back. It started at Vanderbilt, but by the time he left, Coach Franklin left Vanderbilt and went to Penn State. And when he got to Penn State, it was like full throttle. But yeah, we had a amazing official visit.
Now, an official visit, each student athlete can have 5 official, what they call 5 official visits through the NCAA. And an official visit is where the universities pay for everything. Your travel, your staying expenses, your lodging, your food. And this is where these PWI institutions can really put on their best show.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, their best marketing tool, their best strategy. And in that process, at the Penn State official visit, not only do they wine and dine you and your guests, as well as your student athletes, but they also bring in, let's per se, academias who are like in your field for your student athlete. Like Aaron was interested in IT. So for example, they would have some of the top IT program to come and sit with your student athlete and present their case. Presentation is just top notch. And again, unfortunately, at the HBCUs, you know, we don't have the financial budgets to be able to present like that, and it creates a huge disadvantage for our student athletes who may be interested in an HBCU. But one of the things in terms of trying to help an HBCU recruit five-star athlete is this. We learned very quickly through my oldest son, as well as my second son, who went to Penn State, is that in the HBCU, you will be a part of student life. The thing that you don't learn or understand is that you're not a part of the student life. Your experience there is very, very isolated. You're part of the football program. Your day might start at 6 a.m. with either study hall or working out, depending on what school. And then you leave that the football facilities very isolated from student life, and that's a huge problem for our student athletes. That was one of the things that my middle son went to Penn State. That was one of the things that he vastly complained about. Like, he was not allowed to be a part of student life, but at an HBCU, you will be a part of that student life. The PWIs are going to they're going to isolate you because, again, it's a business for them. They have their reasons, like they don't want to take a chance of a student athlete getting in trouble, or we want to have it very structured so we can control every aspect of his life. But at the same time, that also hinders a student athlete's cultural development, maturation development, and that's something that I think an HBCU can capitalize on. Because again, if you go into an HBCU, you will be a part of student life.
Also, too, we also learned quickly through, of course, the first set of lenses was our oldest son, is that when it's time, like, the kids, when they, when you get to by the time you get to the end of your sophomore year going into your junior year, you usually have to declare a major. Well, what they don't explain to you is that you really can't major in anything you want to major in. Now, this may be different at a HBCU.
It's definitely different at a HBCU.
However, at the PWIs, anything, I don't care what it is, if it's a dentist appointment, if it conflicts with that football program, you cannot do it. So my son was frustrated by the time he got to his senior year, because he needed to do the one at Penn State. He needed to do an internship with his major, and he was really frustrated. He was like, man, I can't really go after the good internships. I want to be able to go somewhere else and do an internship. I gotta find a sucky internship here up on this mountain, because I can't leave the school because I got, all my football stuff and all my football commitments and stuff. So if it conflicts with that football program, you can't do it. So a lot of kids going in, parents too, they don't realize that, they don't know that, but it's good that we have platforms like this where we can talk about those things and let parents know, hey, look, let me let you know, you hear all the good side. Let me let you know some of the darker side of this, so that you can really make an informed decision on what's best for your kid.
Like, for example, a lot of the PWIs, they will try to pigeonhole student athletes into certain majors where they believe that the student athlete can do better and graduate.
Right.
Like, for instance, my son, he wanted to be an IT major, but in the beginning, they wanted to try to pigeonhole him into criminal justice or something like that. But when he took a test, it was some kind of form of an IT test that they also gave to student athletes, and he scored very high. Even though he had been fighting them the whole time that this is what he wanted to do, it wasn't until that point did they allow him to be able to go into this particular major, which was IT, which was a very tough major at Penn State. But again, it's up to the parents to try to figure these things out and, help their student athletes, to help their child, because in the PWIs, they will try to pigeonhole you into these majors because it benefits them. It benefits the business side of what they're doing. Now, fortunately for us at an HBCU, you don't have to worry about that thing. If you want to major in a certain field of study, chances are you're going to be allowed to major in that field of study. PWIs, that can be a problem. And I think that's one of the recruitment things that we need to push at HBCUs to help battle this disadvantage that we have when we're talking about recruiting top athletes to come to an HBCU.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know what? I wanted to add to Andre. We were talking about, if I can, Ward and Kevin, real quickly. One of the pitfalls for the athlete that is being recruited is that they think they're going to always be recruited when they get to college. They think that the glitz and glamour continues, of being spoiled during recruitment, and it doesn't happen. Once you sign, that's it. It's all business. We went down to Coastal. They picked us up. They had two golf cart. We could golf cart. They picked us up at the beginning of campus. The one coach had Donovan, the other coach had Debbie and I, and we ride through the campus. And I'm looking at him like, Lord have mercy. This boy, he don't really understand what's going on. But I'm like, hey, look, I'm the guy. Like, I'm being recruited. This was 3 weeks after he won the state championship. And so, but what he found out is when we dropped him off at Coastal, it was business. It was 5 a.m. weight room. 6 a.m. breakfast, 8 a.m. class, 2 a.m. meeting, and he ran track. So football is triple compared to that. So that's one thing if you talk about from a parent's perspective is letting your child understand that recruiting is great. That's nice. I said, but you're not going to they're not going to continue to recruit you once you sign. It's over.
It's over.
Business. And if you're not being an impact in that sport on that team, you're done. You're done.
Definitely. This is some very impactful information right here. And J Dub, we will have to bring back the Monroes and the Goods for a whole nother segment on the backstory. This need to be like a history channel, the backstory of college recruiting. But we do have a time constraint for 15 more minutes. And we have some Q&A because I know we have some questions here. So now it's time for the Q&A part. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we'll get to them as soon as we can. But the first question I want to put out here to get the barrel rolling is that it sounds like everybody wants the kids to go to a good school. But it's like the backstory getting to the good school is that all the stuff that you experienced in college, you want them to experience, that it gets left out of the deal. And just like Eddie said about his son, he got the Coastal. And yeah, I'm running track and I got a scholarship and I'm at the beach, but I'm not having fun. And then Emily and Andre said about their kid, they go to Penn State. That's a Big Ten school. They got championships, they got everything, but I'm not having fun. So are we willing to sacrifice maybe some other golden opportunities at the PWI for more of a personable, enjoyable, foundational experience at the HBCU?
Yep.
I mean, anybody can answer because it seems like, the PWIs, yes, they got all the glitz and glamour, and they sell you on that you got these networking opportunities, but it's like the student athlete's not even getting a chance to be a student. It's like they're an employee of the university.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's correct.
They are.
Because the Monroes hit it right on the head. As a football player, I had no autonomy. I had no decision making. And I ran track too. My freshman year, I ran track. And I chose my major as a freshman. I knew what I wanted to do. But as soon as I hit football, my schedule was there for me. I had to do everything that they told me to do and everything lined up. And that's when I realized, like, this ain't right. Like, something ain't right. Like, I don't have any control over my destiny. So that's why, that was one of the main reasons why I chose to not play football. Not because I couldn't play. I was actually like a prospect. Like, I could have gone to the league. Like, but I was like, I can't live with, I'll have a regret if I don't choose my own path when it comes to my education, in which ended up having a 15-year career afterwards, after school, after sports in my major. So so just to mention that's what the darker side is, man. When you get there, especially in a football program, yeah, you're not gonna have much autonomy unless you choose.
Yeah.
Unless you choose. For me, it was track, which I had a ton more autonomy. I was able to celebrate, do a lot of things I was able to experience the life as a PWI, as opposed to being restricted, just isolated as a football player.
So don't
I'm sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't want to undercut the other, don't get me wrong. I mean, they both had great experiences at Maryland and Penn State. I mean, they got to experience, bowl games. I mean, hell, we enjoyed the bowl games. I mean,
the tailgating.
Right. We had a wonderful experience when it came to that. But when you are parents, when you're looking at these schools, you have got to take into consideration the social, emotional development of your child.
Yes.
What is going to be the best fit, for your child. That's so important, because now what I hear from my boys now, what we hear is, and mom has a different conversation with the sons than they do with dad. So I get all the social emotional stuff. But what I hear from them is, once they came out of these programs, they felt like they were light years behind their other peers who were non-athletes, who had a real student life experience when they went to college. So they felt like they were so behind the curve, and it's like they got to catch up. I got to catch up to what my other friends are doing, because I missed all of that because I was playing football, So and even when they were in, going through, school, I had to I said, look, just keep it in the back of your mind. Keep it in front of you. This is just a means to the way.
Yeah.
That's all. Just look at it. You're working for your degree. This is a job. Some students have to go and work at the local subway or the restaurant down the street, or UPS or wherever, to get money in their pocket. For you, or to pay for their education. For you, the football field, and your performance on the football field, that's what's paying for your education. It's just the means to the way, and it's not going to last forever. And it's going to end. It will end. So I had to constantly keep those little nuggets in front of them, to keep them going, because again,
like for instance, I just want to get into this real quick, Eddie, before we send it back to you, because I know you want to say something.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Like most parents don't realize
it's the
that.
Eddie Rush show.
No,
man. Go ahead, man.
Rush show. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Dre. What you got?
I got you.
Because after you, I'm going to have to switch up, because I really want the audience to get some questions in.
Okay, real quick. Like in the major PWI programs like football, basketball, and major sports, those universities, even though it's not a requirement, they basically are going to force your child, your student athlete, to be on campus all year round. They're going to force you to go to summer school. So that means that the student athlete, again, when it's talking about normacy as a student athlete or as a college student, that part is also taken away from you. They're going to force you to be in summer school all year round, the whole 4 years you're there. Again, it's control. And also, if you can take a couple of summer classes, during the summer. It also takes some of the load off of your academic requirements when you are in your sport months per se. But again, that hinders, a time of a student athlete's life where he's going through a maturation process and he's not getting a chance to experience what a normal student would experience as far as a college life, because again, he is so structured, he is so controlled that it becomes a hindrance. And that's something you have to look at. And coming from a perspective of what can an HBCU do to help better recruit these type of athletes, these are some of the things that needs to be exposed.
Right. Definitely, that sounds really good. And we have about 5 minutes left in the show. I know Eddie has something that he wanted to accent on as well in the student athlete, more so being taken as an employee of the university.
Okay. Well, Eddie got something. Would you?
Did you want to say something, Eddie?
No, go ahead. For sake of time, we're great with the program. I'm good.
Okay. And since my letters is sort of thing, if normally we do watch we want to respect everybody's Sunday, but this topic we knew it was going to get hot. So if anybody, I'm going to keep running it. And if you want to stick around, stay on the link, because I really want to hear now some input from my audience. First of all, I want to point out a good friend of mine that y'all might be curious about, because I want his input, and then from there I want the audience to chime in. I want to welcome to the show Stan Sexton. I am going to be showcasing Stan. I'm going to tell you why. Stan is a Trojan. He played 2 years with me at Virginia State. His journey to Virginia State, no different from ours. So Stan, based on everything you heard, and when I get to you, when it's your time, when I do your thing that you talked about, based on what you heard, and you attended Virginia State, share your thought on this. And then from there, we're going to chime in with the audience and start getting some questions for our guests, if not comments. Go for it, Stan.
First of all, I just want to thank everybody for all the input. And I tell you what, hearing all the things, I've coached high school football for 30 years, and I've been from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain, and I've had a lot of kids be able to go to schools, and I've had a lot of kids sign at HBCUs. I've had kids go to PWIs. But my experience is I was telling Ward the other day when I was talking to him, I just long for those days back to be up at Langston and hanging out with the guys and being out and going into cross street to the CAF and just, the fun I had. And I tell you what, I never felt like a part of a family than I felt there. And I still feel that way today. And, I'm still kind of upset over my best friend, one of my best friends, Quincy, rest in peace, passing away. But, Daryl Brown, we all hung out together. And I remember Andre, over there, we all had good times, but.
Yeah, remember our blue chipper days, right?
Yeah, I do. I do though. I do. Matter of fact, I was going through some stuff and saw that old sweatshirt. I was like, oh Lord.
We pledged together, y'all, in our Blue Chippers organization.
Yeah. And then, but my issue right now, and it's not an issue with HBCU and not an issue with PWIs. My issue is how it is being advertised. You hit it on the head. I mean, you see every Saturday when you turn on TV and during college football season, every Saturday you turn on the TV to watch college basketball. You see ESPN Game Day. Where are they? It's free advertisement for the PWIs. The only time of the year really that a HBCU gets an advertisement on TV is around Christmas time when they do their bowl game, when it's usually Grambling playing somebody down in the Silver Dome. And they finally have gotten an idea that, that draws a big crowd, but a lot of it has to do with these kids being on the high school aspect, coaching high school for all those years, they're being told at rec league when they're really good at the rec league, oh, you're going to be an NFL star. And then they're being told by everybody, boy, the only way you can get to the NFL is you go to this school or go to that school. And I can't remember who said it, but it might have been Coach just said it earlier, that they're going to find you. It doesn't matter. I mean, Walter Payton, now he was okay. He was a decent player. I mean, hey, Jerry Rice, he was another decent player. They're going to find you. If you're good, they're going to find you. And to me, I love the aspect of having a relationship with guys. I was telling Daryl and Ward the other day, I really miss being able to go to homecoming because coaching high school ball, I never had the time to go, but I've always wanted to go back and see everybody. And, now that I'm retiring from teaching in 70 days. So
congratulations.
After 30 years, I'm finally going to go. But my whole thing is I always tried to tell the kids, and again, somebody else pointed out, education's number one. I said, they're going to use a scholarship, and you guys said, they're going to use you to try to improve their program. You have to use them to get your education. I said, because athletics can disappear in a blink of an eye. You tear a knee up, you tear a shoulder up or whatever, but they can't take that diploma from you. They can't take that education from you. So, you have to go where you're going to fit in, where you're going to get the best education, where you're going to get the best experience possible. And I mean, I've coached guys that have played in the NFL, and I just, they come back and you hear the stories that they talk about when they went to college. And some of them are great stories, how they developed a great relationship. Some of them will talk about, hey, I played football and you know what? It was the worst time of my life, business aspect. But as a coach, I never tried to steer a kid one direction or the other. I wanted to steer them to a school that they felt like. Now, as a head coach, I used to get a lot of flack from the big schools because I would come in, you have to make an appointment, and I'd give them very limited time because I knew that they're coming in, they're going to look at so-and-so, and, they have a list a mile long of guys they're going to look at, and my guy might be 25 on a list of, 50. So anyway, I mean, I'm just blabbing, I'm sorry, but, the big thing is I always gave the Division IIs and the Division IIIs, especially, I remember calling Coach Faison up when he was a head coach at Virginia State, chewing him out, going, why are you not at my school? You need to be here. I mean, we just won a state championship. I got some players here. I got some athletes here. And he didn't come in, and they ended up going to St. Augustine's and playing, which killed me. But, if any of y'all went to St. Aug's, I'm sorry. But, but my whole thing was, I'm like, hey, coach, why aren't you in my door? Why aren't you banging my door down? And a lot of times these HBCU coaches wait to the last minute, and they're trying to get the left behinds, the kids that didn't get it, get the Division I scholarship, the kids that didn't go to Alabama or, Florida State. And so, but they need to come in and be competitive recruiting. And, and it is, the big bottom line is money. And, I wish it wasn't, but unfortunately, the society we live in, that's what it is, because I can remember as a kid, you probably guys can remember too, man, you go see the facilities some of these schools have, you walk in, I was looking at a thing on Alabama, you walk in and you see their facility, and I mean, each kid's got a TV monitor in their locker, they got lockers. I mean, they're doing things.
PlayStation.
Right. They're doing things to work on the psyche of these kids. And I think HBCU has to start doing some of these things to get that. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest things I think has happened for HBCU in years is Deion Sanders being hired as a head coach at Jackson State. Is it Jackson State? Is that correct?
It is Jackson State.
Yeah.
Jackson State. Yes, that's my dad's school.
Yeah. To me, that's been one of the best things, because now all of a sudden you have a name that's a head coach at, at an HBCU. and somebody who has a personality can draw those guys in. And I think you're going to start seeing them become a powerhouse here lately. Hopefully, I hope he stays there long enough to build a powerhouse program. I know they won last week. It was some blowout, but I mean, he's gotten better athletes in there. So I hate to say it has to depend on stuff like that, but you're talking about 18-year-old kids and they're still children. You know, they're 18. They may look like they're 25 and they may be built like they're 25 or 30, but they're still 18. And the bright lights and everything and the glitter still attracts them. And so, you know, that's kind of, we'll get into more of that next week, I think.
Yeah, that's and Coach, you really grabbing a whole lot of stuff right there. And we do have a question in the chat. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. But it was one question. It's probably Benji could probably answer this one. What is the GPA that is needed for athletes to qualify to even get in the clearinghouse portal? Or Emily? You're on mute. Somebody muted her or unmuted her.
We got it.
Yeah.
We got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a sliding scale for the NCAA as far as kids to qualify. The higher your GPA, the lower your score has to be. So the key is, I think Emily touched on it earlier, knock that GPA out. So if you have a 3.8, you have a 3.7, it's a sliding scale going down. But at the high academic schools, they're still looking at your SAT score as far as admittance. So you're going to Georgetown, you're going to Duke, you're going to any of the Ivy, stuff like that. They're still looking at your score. They're not just going by the NCAA score. But the key is the higher the GPA.
Right. So for both Division I and Division II, it's 16 core requirements and based like 3 credits of math, 4 credits of English, so on and so forth. But it's 16 core credit requirements. Then it's the GPA, a minimum GPA, your minimum core GPA has to be 2.3. And then they have the sliding scale of, like Benji was saying, the higher your GPA, your core GPA, the lower your test scores can be.
SAT,
yeah, your SAT or your ACT. Also, to know this with the SAT, they will take, like, if you've taken the SAT 5 times, they're going to take your highest, the reading, the comprehensive score. Out of the 5 times you've taken, they're going to take the highest one, and they're going to take the highest math. Not your total score each time you took it, but the highest in each of those sections. And that's how that's what they call a combined score. So, so if you're a kid who does not meet, say you don't have that, you don't meet those requirements, you can still qualify as a academic red shirt. The GPA core GPA now becomes a 2.0. You still have to have the SAT, still the sliding and the combined scale with the SAT and the ACT scores, but you are an academic red shirt. You can practice, but you can't play your first year.
New. Yeah.
That's a new that was new after our second son. Our sons was still, and actually it was 2.0. It wasn't 2.3. It was just everybody across the board. Division I was 2.0. And last, I think core GPA can be 2.2. And if you don't meet that, then then there's still the academic red shirt that's available, requirement that's available with the core GPA of 2.0.
An academic red shirt most people don't know about.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about, most kids when they come in, they like, oh, I'm going to so-and-so school, I got a scholarship, blah, blah, blah. They coming in, they thinking they're gonna play their first year, when probably I don't know what
You
the
can't
percentage
because of your academic measure if you didn't meet those core requirements.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely, Emily. That's some great information. Benji, thank you for the information as well. Ward, I think we might have to come back in the spring of the year and just have them on just talking clearinghouse stuff and academics for the kids, for the juniors, upcoming seniors, so they can get prepared for it. But again, this has been a very robust conversation today, and there's been a lot of meat on the bone that has been exposed today. So we'd like to thank everyone for coming out. There weren't any more questions in queue. So Ward, I think we go ahead and we can wrap it up for today.
Yes. So with that, I'm gonna say thank you to everybody for chiming in. I want to thank where he's gone, but my homie Coach Butler from Union, because I definitely wanted him to throw that out there, being from the aspect the coach's aspect. And Coach Sexton, I thank you too. But we're going to talk for what I'm gonna do with you down the road. And I wrote a little. Oh man, I know my team is getting on because they don't let me, fumble a lot. I want to point out that in closing, that this is, like I said, this is a 2-part show. In 2 weeks, we're coming back for part 2. And a lot of things I heard in this show, we point out a lot of aspects from being recruited and parents being involved in the recruiting process for their child, being in female sports or male sports. So we kind of dug into that and had individuals on here that have experience coming from different angles of that. So now when we go into part 2, we're going to tackle what should HBCUs do. And I'm going to try to reach out to some coaches and some former players to come in and talk about some things from that aspect too. So right now we gave a lot of information on what if we want to sit at the table with them PWIs, are we ready to sit and are we ready to make the commitment? Because I was talking to somebody and I told them, I get the argument. I get what we want, what we wish, what we like to see, but our administration's on board, our athletic directors on board, and if the school can handle it anyway. Because I believe personally that HBCUs were put in place really to educate African Americans. And it evolved to where any minority can go there, which was a plus. Football happened to come along. We put in a lot of athletes in the NFL Hall of Fame and NBA Hall of Fame. So we evolved in that area, but education comes first. So now we just got to figure out what can HBCUs if they want to sit at the table with the big boys. Me personally, I like staying in the shadow, because being in the shadow, look at what we've done for all these years that we've been in play. From an educational standpoint, of the great leaders that we put into play. From an academic sports standpoint, for the great athletes that we put in place. And we did all this standing being in the shadow. But if you want to come out the shadow, you got to be ready to sit at the table with the big boys. And I don't know if they really want to share them $1 billion, but we're going to talk about that. So with that being said, my closing remarks along with that is, I have the highest regard for HBCUs. Historically, Black colleges are training grounds for some of our most influential Black leaders, and a beautiful place and a beautiful piece of history that needs to be maintained. I respect those schools and everything they stand for, but selecting a college is an intense personal process. This decision, I believe, is totally up to the student/student athlete, the decision they have to make for themselves, along with their parents helping, and not to make anyone else happy. Ultimately, the student will spend the next 4 years on campus working towards a degree, not their parents, not their friends, and not someone on Twitter with a disagreement with their choices. So I recommend highly for those who find themselves helping to prepare their child to attend a university, be it an HBCU or PWI. Do your due diligence and cross your I's and dot your T's. Remember, it's the students' time to live out their dreams. So let them make the right choice, help them make the right choice, and help them have a college experience that they will never forget, just like we did. And I always leave y'all with something to take with you throughout the week, and that would be a African quote. I am not looking for my other half. I am complete. I am looking for my other whole. Now, with that, I want to thank y'all for chiming in. Guests, stick around. We're going to wind down. Everybody else, y'all have a peace and blessed Sunday. Stay safe, wear your mask. Thank you.
Hey, Ward, hold up. Eddie had a question or a statement.
Okay.
I think he said, never mind.
Okay.
No, I was locked. I wanted to say something at the end, but you said that the participants on the panel are going to stay around. I wanted to share something with Sexton that was that he didn't know about. But I can wait till the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Like I say, have a good Sunday. Y'all be safe. Part 2 in 2 weeks. I'll be getting the information out there. We're going to tackle now what your HBCUs do to sit at the table with the big boy. Prepare for it. Y'all take care. Be blessed.